Okay. As people come in, I'll let them in. Just want to let everybody know this is the Michigan Watercolor Society's monthly conversation called Art Talk. And if you're not muted, please do so. It'll cut out a lot of the noise in the background because we're recording this for others to have the opportunity to hear it that couldn't make it today. And
Nice, but they're
I appreciate if you could mute yourselves. There's more talking going on, and
Rocco, don't you have the option to mute everyone?
I do, and then I've got to go back and unmute because I'll have to. Then I've got to ask them. It's ugly because if they're not looking, but we're good now. Looks like we're good. So a few weeks ago, I went over to Edee Joppich's home, and we met. She sent me a card for a reception, and I really didn't know Edee other than seeing her name on the Michigan Watercolor Society membership rolls. And so I went to her show. That was over in Ferndale, and just saw all this lovely work. And I knew that she had a history, Michigan Watercolor Society. And I said, let's sit down and talk. And I want to know more about you. And so I went to her home. And we had a nice conversation and we recorded it. And so we're going to go through that. And if there are questions that come along during the recording, we can stop it. And Edee can answer the questions and go from there. So Edee, for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I've been painting for about 65 years, and some of the back history will come up in our conversation, but I've just been a hardworking artist and teaching all those years, and I guess that's about it. That's what I am.
Okay.
I could go on for an hour, but we.
Well, by going to Edee's home, which was awesome, her artwork is all over the house, at least in the area that I was in. So I had a chance to see a lot of this. And I'm glad to know I'm not the only one that's got the whole house surrounded with artwork. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I was just reading about Picasso today, and he did 350,000 paintings in his lifetime. And so I didn't feel too bad about having so much of my art,
Well, okay. Let me, we're going to get started with the recorded session that we did. And
oh, okay. Yeah, I'm just listening to it. I'm not gonna listen to it very long.
And if you're on the call, please mute yourselves so that you don't interfere with the recording. I'm trying to find, where is everybody? So can everybody see the picture of Edee and I on your screens? Well, yeah, I just told you to mute yourselves, so of course. Okay, we're gonna get started with this. Ready, Edee?
Okay.
Here we go.
Oops. I don't want all those people here. Where's the sound?
Yeah, we have to hear the sound.
Yeah.
I don't think we can hear you.
You can't hear us?
Sound.
There.
It's on here. I mean, I'm hearing sound. What else is here? Not hearing. You can hear me now, right? Let's
Yeah,
see,
I don't think it's
Make
anything
it,
to that.
let's see. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, but you couldn't hear the presentation.
correct.
Interesting. Interesting. Let me see if there's any adjustments on it. I know it wasn't quite as loud as me. Let's see. Oh, let's try this. See how loud that is. Can you hear it now? Could you hear that? Could anyone hear that now that I had louder speaker?
Yes, I can hear it.
Okay.
Well, we can hear you talking. It's,
Oh, you still didn't hear the video?
No,
no.
no.
Oh. Where'd it go? Here we go. This was a new approach. It was trying to record in advance.
Maybe Rocco share screen again?
Okay.
don't-
Let me try it again.
Oh,
That's the screen I'm sharing, so you can see the screen.
We can see this.
yes.
It's not muted. Let me put it, let's see, speakers. It's coming through my speaker.
You'll probably need to hit play again.
Yeah, I mean,
Watercolor, I guess it was the 60s.
can you hear that?
We're hearing it. It's a little garbled, but we're hearing something.
It's what, Val?
A
It's
little
broke.
garbled.
Broken up.
Fine here on the recording. Let's run it for a few minutes, see what happens.
Sounds good.
Is that any better?
You can't hear it, Rocco.
Okay,
Select sound in the bottom left corner of the share select.
15 minutes.
Share sound.
You can hear it.
Of the share selection.
Okay, let me take a look. There's share. I don't have a bottom.
Bottom left of the shares. And then
Damn Zoom thing.
Advanced settings.
maybe.
Let's see. Here's the bottom. Oh, share sound. I'm sorry. Let's see if this works. Vicky, my trusty tester here.
University, and I was specializing
Yay.
really in watercolor and acrylic. But during my time there, I found out about Robert Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns in New York, and the work that they were doing was so outrageous and so amazing and so exciting to me that I started right away in that direction as well. I did my first collage at school there, and continued then with realism, transparent watercolor. Oh, don't you love transparent water? I'm asking you.
Well, you know, the 60s, what an amazing time for
Yes.
modern art.
Absolutely. Revolutionary.
The acrylic was starting to come out
Yes.
more actively. Silk screening with
Yeah. Oh,
Andy
those-
Warhol.
Yeah.
All these technological advancements
Yeah.
in the art world.
So when I graduated, I didn't graduate, but barely, almost. I began to work both in transparent watercolor and in experimental collage and mixed media. And those two styles have run parallel through my whole painting life. I work pretty much in series. It isn't planned that way. It just works out that way. An idea will come along, and I do a painting with that focus or that thought, and then that's not enough. I have more to say, and then I do the next and the next and the next. And then after a body of work in a certain style, I usually had a one-woman show or something of that work. And that led to the next. So we could start out by showing some of the early
Sure.
ideas that I had after.
Well, let's talk about some. So who were your teachers in watercolor?
You're asking me to remember. Louise Nabili
Okay.
was my major.
Who was big with the Michigan Watercolor Group?
Oh gosh, yes. And yeah, I was very fond of her, and I think she was fond of me too. She was my major. Let's see, Franklin Page,
Okay.
but he wasn't watercolor, he was a sculptor. So those were the two that,
And did you get Mary Jane Bigler?
well, I didn't study with Mary Jane,
Okay.
but I knew her in the Michigan watercolor. She was an interesting woman.
Okay.
We have her Mary Jane stories.
Okay.
And she was memorable and a wonderful artist.
Well, I'm looking at, as we went through some of your work today, I see the Louise Nobili influence.
Yeah.
I mean, she was as experimental by, lifting paper up and
Yes.
making it more three-dimensional and putting it in cases.
Yes.
But it was still watercolor paper.
Yeah, she honored the medium, but she
Right.
went beyond.
Yeah.
And that would be nice. I'd like to have that said about me.
Did you ever see these people after school?
Well, I not somewhat professionally, but not
Okay.
personally.
Okay. Great.
So anyway, I on working on figurative realism, and I was interested in large scale watercolor. I worked on elephant size
Paper. Okay.
paper.
Which is a 30 by 40 inch.
Yeah, and a very heavy paper, a wonderful paper. And my artist friends teased me that I always painted big because I was so small. But that's not true because I feel big. Anyway, so we could look at some of the early pieces.
Let's do that.
This one is a part of
Let's bring it up.
All right, let's see what we have. Well, this is a Stephen trilogy, and the subject is my son. He posed for me very wonderfully, and I took a lot of pictures of him, but a lot of it was done actually with him posing. Do we have any more of that trilogy?
I don't think we do. We just took this one.
Okay, there are 3 involved. And this one did well in one of the Michigan watercolor shows, the 3 paintings.
So a lot of patterns.
Yeah, detail, and so on. So
And you did 3 of these.
yes,
From what I
so
saw
3
them.
poses, and they are one whole painting. The 3 trilogy.
Did you work from photographs?
Somewhat.
And then you added.
Yeah, what I do is with all of these, I take a lot of photographs of the subject.
Have my halos.
Positions and different details. Then I make up a board and put all those prints on a board, and I work from the board.
Well, it's almost like you're making a collage
Yeah,
And-
reference.
for reference material.
Yeah, so it's not tracing anything
Right.
or projecting an
Right.
image. I haven't never done that.
Okay. And what size? These are, like you said, elephant board
Yeah.
size.
3 elephant size paintings.
Okay.
Okay. And this is Venetian Eve. She also did well for me in Michigan Watercolor Show. And I went to Venice and on a painting trip, and I was taken with the models or the actors or whatever on the street corners in costume and mask. I bought a mask, came home, and started drawing getting a lot of pictures taken by my husband with me holding different objects in different costumes to build up to what I was going to do. I wound up doing 3 paintings, and I wish we could see all 3. But this is the first, holding the apple.
Yeah, and I'm looking at all these patterns. I mean, your backgrounds are not traditional backgrounds.
There's abstraction involved. After I finished the first one, it took so long. It was so much detail. And I said, well, that's it. And then I wound up doing the second one. And then I wound up doing 3, and that was it.
I think the third one, you took the mask off.
I took the mask. The third one is the self-portrait because I'm behind the mask.
So, you know, I'm sensing from looking at some of your work that you're referencing art history.
Oh, yes. Very academic background at Mary Grove College, back when we learned all the rules before you break them.
So you studied art history?
Basic, everything.
Yeah.
Very deep, very definitely.
Let's go to, so you did a series of 3 of these as well. And these are all very large
Yes,
by traditional standards of
absolutely.
watercolor.
Elephant size.
And they really stand out.
Now, this is another large painting, and these are really a part of the lifestyle series. This is called The Victor. It is my husband, and it represents how we rise above ourselves and just become strong and more than we think we are. So he's rising above himself, a very strong, wonderful person.
And how long have you been married?
Oh, 6 years. I guess I know him pretty well. Yeah.
And where did you meet?
Oh, are we going to go back there?
Just for a second.
Let's move along. In our teens, we met.
Okay. But again, this image, I mean, you're sensing the angle of looking up into the sky.
Because he's very tall.
And that's how you see him.
Yeah. And yeah, the stained glass was reflecting on him, and you really can't see the colors that fell across his torso in this image, but it is colorful, actually.
I love how you handled the pants.
Oh.
You know, all the wrinkles, and I mean,
Yes.
it looks Renaissance.
Oh, that's very nice.
It looks very, the foils,
Yes,
and it's different in the body.
yes.
It's nicely done, and the angles. I mean, these angles going through.
Yeah, the composition,
The
diagonal
right.
leading in, and then
Right.
the counter diagonal going out on the left side. So it forms a V.
Yeah, that's just amazing.
And that was in Michigan watercolor too.
Okay, way back when.
Oh, way back when. Yes.
And again, this is
We,
pre-recorded today, so when we actually have the Zoom call, you can just leave messages, and we can have Edee address them at that point.
I'd love to. This was another series that went on at that time. It was called Gallery Dilemmas. Incidents that I observed in galleries and museums and recorded with photographs. This one I actually set up. I took my model, who was my Helga. She was in so many of my paintings. I sat her in my gallery up north.
A reference to Andrew Wyatt.
Yes, well, I guess, but I posed her wondering to buy or not to buy, which is the big question in a gallery, especially when you're the owner and observe people debating all the time. So this is part of the series of gallery dilemmas, and there were quite a few, but we just chose this one to represent a body of work.
And you owned a gallery.
Yes, for 40 years up in Northport, Michigan. I put together a collection of the best of Michigan art every year. I invited about 30 Michigan artists and fine art craftsmen, sculptors, and so on to represent the best of Michigan art and brought it up to my gallery in Northport.
And what was it called?
Joppich Bay Street Gallery. Joppich Bay Street Gallery.
Okay. That's
That's
amazing.
on the Leelanau Peninsula near Traverse City.
Yeah. Well, this is very nice. Just the handling of again, the imagery. You can see that she's pondering.
Yeah.
Very nicely done.
Thank you. This is a painting. It was a commission by the Plymouth Art Center to do a portrait of Joanne Hulse. And I decided to include collage. So the image of Joanne is in transparent watercolor. And she is surrounded by collage. I chose to do the collage areas in black and white. The contrast was dramatic. The collage elements represent parts of her life and contribution to the arts.
So, by collage, I mean, are you gluing things on?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Cutouts and some painted and some cut out and various elements other than paint, with some paint, watercolor.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like the whole thing could have been watercolor,
Yes, absolutely.
but it that's okay. And what size is this again?
So this is a tribute size, 27, well, by 38 or so.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Now, at the same time, I was doing a series of, at the same time as I was doing the realism, figurative realism, I was doing abstracts. And this was one of the first in a series called Flying Objects. I pretty much, you can see here that these folded papers were flying and soaring up. This was purchased by a man who told me when he came in the gallery that he did not like abstract, but he had to have that painting. And a couple years later, I got a letter from him, and he told me that when he came home from work, he always had a martini. But since he had the painting, he came home from work and sat in front of the painting. And that was a great compliment.
To relax.
Yes.
To help them
To
relax.
relax. Yeah.
That looks like another large piece.
Yes, very large. Yeah.
You know, in talking about just working bigger, what would you recommend to artists that are new to this area about size?
Well, it's all personal. You can do a major piece of art that's 16 by 20. And, you know, there's some wonderful shows out there of small art. And so scale does not necessitate importance or validity art-wise.
Okay.
I guess it's a personal choice.
Mhm.
And sometimes the subject dictates the size.
I mean, would you recommend someone just to work large, just to experiment?
It depends on how adventuresome they are, but yes, I would. Why not? Go for it.
Well, I know the way
Get big brushes.
I mean, I should almost be working with rollers
Yes, I know, and I have done rollers.
because it's just to see what effects happen because it's
Absolutely.
watercolor, it's
Oh yeah,
paper,
it's wonderful. You know, the possibilities.
right?
It's a great time to be an artist.
Hey. And who was this woman?
Oh, Joanne Winkleman Hulse.
No, this one.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
But at the young age, but still the same inside.
So this was back in probably the 70s.
Oh, gee, don't ask.
Okay, never mind.
I'm not good at numbers. Okay. All right. I began a series of paintings that paid tribute to artists that have influenced me, that I admire greatly. And I made a list of some of the most important people. This was Louise Nevelson. And she influenced me tremendously all through my adult painting life. for many, many reasons. This particular painting, I struggled with in my studio for several weeks. All the parts, putting them, changing them, moving them around, and it was stiff, and I couldn't make it work. And one day, all the painting was on the floor all together and not working for me. And wind came through my studio and blew all the parts off before I could glue them on. And I started putting the parts back on, and within a half an hour, I had it. That was it. That was it. That amazing feeling when you say, that's it.
Right.
And I quickly adhered, glued everything together, and came up with a painting that I was happy with. And it's been published. It's won a couple prizes. And Louise Nevelson was looking out for me, boy, on this one. Or God.
What materials were you using?
Rice papers, painted papers, cutout papers.
Photographs?
Yeah, my own photographs, everything. And some photographs of some of her work. Sections of her pieces, absolutely. Every tribute painting included some cutouts of the artist's actual work. So we want to.
Yeah, you can see a lot of these on Edee's website.
Yes.
But she's got about 6, 7, 8 of them there.
Yeah, I did 3 to Louise Nevelson. I think we have one more on here. Well, this is Jasper Johns, who I still love. He's still working, very vital in his early 90s. 2 great major retrospectives have just gone on. I greatly admire Jasper Johns. This one also did well for me in Michigan. Oh, Society of the
International Society of Experimental Artists.
I joined them about the same time as I joined Michigan Watercolor, but this one won a very significant award. I didn't do it for the award. I didn't do it for the show. I did it because I love Jasper Johns, and that is sincere, truly. There are images of things that appear in many of his paintings, like hands and arrows. Some's been painted.
I just remember his American flag series.
The flags, yeah. This one doesn't have a flag, but a couple others I did do.
I love the thickness in his paintings.
Yeah. Okay, and this is Robert Rauschenberg from graduate school, all through my life. He has passed away, but what an outrageous and amazing man he was. So this had to be included, Robert Rauschenberg.
Boy, it looks like you've got various materials.
Yes, rice papers and textured fabric and, whatever works.
Yeah. And the color scheme here.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looks like you're walking through a building.
Yes, there is a dimensional aspect of,
And these patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fond person of lines,
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of lines.
Well, this is a whole different thing. This was inspired by what I saw at the Denos Museum. They had an exhibit going on, Birds of Paradise. And I was standing watching a film that they had going along with the exhibit. And it was of the birds of paradise, dancing and music. And I looked down and saw a little girl watching as well. And she was a little Native American girl, and she was mesmerized by it. And then she began to dance. And I took a lot of photographs of her. And when I got back to my studio, I couldn't wait to begin this painting. It is called Lumen de Lumines, Light unto Light. And that is a bird of paradise feather in there. This painting was accepted in an international show in Wales. And I was lucky to be invited to accompany the president for a week in Wales, visiting artist studios. They're doing exceptional, experimental, exciting work in Wales.
Mm-hmm.
What a revelation that was. So
That is great. And you know that Michigan watercolor will be at the Danos Museum in 2024.
I'm definitely gonna try.
So we'll
To be
we'll be out there.
accepted.
Hopefully we'll see your work too.
I hope so. All right, now we're getting into the paintings that I did during the pandemic. Uh, I found myself in an odd situation. I've been teaching for all these years, workshops and classes around the state and at Val in Livonia, and always teaching. And
Yeah, what were you teaching?
everything to do with art. Composition, color, drawing, watercolor, mixed media, you name it. And so my life has been a good part of it, teaching. And I couldn't teach anymore because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
And I found myself only with a lot of time just to do my work, my own work. I always did my work, but always with, on the back of my mind, my students' thoughts of what they were doing as well. Totally on my own. And I went out while we still could, and I bought 6 3x4 canvases and loaded up on materials, and I set to work. And during the pandemic, I did 105 paintings, some of them quite large, but not all of them. But at the end of the pandemic, I wound up this past year having 2 one-woman shows of work done during this incredible time. It was a terrible time,
Right.
but for me, it was an opportunity that I had never really enjoyed before. So this painting it was very strong, and it shows. Well, you really don't have to explain art, but you're being lifted up and freed and letting go. So, but a lot of materials in there, including pieces of metal and screen and
Mhm.
panels from a roof in Northport, and all kinds of interesting materials that work together to become a whole.
It looks like a landscape.
In some
structural-
ways, if your imagination can take you there, I like people to be able to bring their own interpretation.
Mhm.
But overall, it's about a feeling.
Mhm. Well, you know, during the pandemic, I talked to a number of artists, and they go, you know, we're usually working in isolation, anyways.
Anyway,
Again, if you're teaching, obviously you're
a little
interacting,
bit practical,
Right.
yeah.
but so it has been a good time, I think, for a lot of artists
Isn't it an interesting?
because they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't go out,
Mhm.
and you know, I think it satisfies the therapeutic needs of an artist by producing.
Being isolated and
Right.
left alone.
Right. Okay.
Okay. As it turned out, the gallery had to close.
But how many? You had it for a long time.
40 years.
Okay.
Of fine art, yes. In a
great.
little village.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. But people came from all over the country and all over the world to that gallery. People find you if they want that kind of
Right.
art. So, but I was getting ready to leave. Music was playing, and I was dancing around, trying to feel okay. And I saw my shadows, and shadows are part of my work forever. And I began taking pictures as I danced of my shadows on the gallery floor. And so this is very personal and joyous and sad, and a painting that was significant to me.
Again, a lot of contrast.
Repetition and
Right.
composition is important, and of course in all of these abstract. Yeah.
Again, if you have questions, feel free to hit the chat button and we can address them as we go along. Again, this is pre-recorded.
This painting is in the Shadow series. I've always had an interest in taking my shadow, photos of my shadow, but you can follow the shadows through over on the left, on the right side, the shadow becomes very small and is either leaving or discovering a new light back there. But it's built on a grid. So many times I use diagonals in my work and counter diagonals, but this is built on a grid, horizontal and vertical, and each grid has a different pattern. Initially, there's so much more to these that meets the eye. The more you look, the more you discover decisions that have been made throughout this journey, through this painting.
That's great. I mean, it forces you to really examine a piece. And I find that if I'm encouraged, if I keep finding new things in a painting, I'll never be bored with it.
Well, that's true.
And that's how I determine if I like my pieces or not, or when they're done.
How significant it is artistically. You know, if you can see it in a glance and then forget it, it's like elevator music, you know, infinitely pleasing and totally forgettable.
Right.
But if you have to really search and find more and more and more, then it has substance.
Right.
These are two of the large canvas boards that the beginning of the pandemic and working very large, and there again, they are full of detail, which can't be seen at this scale. But they all include shadows and images and images of myself as well.
Again, the contrast between the darker grays
Mm-hmm.
and then the layers of materials that you add. I mean, I feel like I'm in New York someplace over
I
here.
like that. I hadn't thought of that. And of course, there's acrylic paint and always some painting involved.
Right.
Sometimes in transitions from one paper to the next and so on. And those are my hand Xerox there.
Yeah, that was a series you actually did a whole series.
I did
on.
Xerox images of faces and hands. Yep.
And that was back when that was becoming, I mean, Xerox machines or copy machines. We call them Xerox.
Yeah,
That became the trade name for the copy process.
Yeah.
And very interesting to
Yeah.
take those images.
This is a recent painting, although I prepared for it for a number of years. I was really interested in thinking about what Jesus would look like if he showed up now. He was 32 years old, a very young man, and he is always portrayed biblically as a middle-aged man, traditionally. And Rembrandt's paintings of Jesus that were at the DIA, did you happen to see that? There was an exhibit there, oh gosh, 9-10 years ago, of 5 small paintings that Rembrandt did of Jesus. And his model was a local man, one of his neighbors. And the DIA had them beautifully, and I was thrilled and moved by this. But they were an older Jesus. And the more I thought about it, I started wondering how he would look now. And I began to gather materials. I have a file about 3-inch thick of photos that I've taken off of TV, out of the newspapers, out of magazines and catalogs. I mean, it became a little bit obsessive, but I couldn't find the right model for Jesus. So I finally decided just to start drawing, and I took charcoal and tracing paper and I pray. I have to admit, I do rely on prayer. I can't handle this alone. It's too much. It's too much. So I began to draw, and I came up with a couple, well, actually 3 charcoal studies of Jesus. And I framed them. They're nice. I really love them, but they weren't it. And then I did another watercolor, and it wasn't on Upol. It wasn't right. And then I just sat down and I painted this. No reference at all, just out of my head. But I was, you could say, Rocco, that I was ready.
Yes. Yeah, looking, I get a chance to see it up close. And if you look at all the imagery in the background.
That's all collage. And in the background, I have copies of traditional Jesus paintings and Rembrandt's painting. And so there's a great many things to discover of the history of renderings of Jesus up to my rendition of the Jesus of 2002, as it was when I finished this.
Okay.
The hand is how we know him. If he came up to the door, he'd just be a nice looking, pleasant young man. But he puts his hand up and there's the wound in his hand. And then you know who he is.
I didn't even notice that
Yes.
until you brought it up.
Yeah.
Well, that was a snapshot, a small snapshot of some of your life's work.
Yes.
We took it through various phases that you've been through. And you talk about series. And I think it's important for people to do series. One, it brings some consistency to your work. And in the past, I've never been one for a series. I do something, the next one was totally different.
Okay,
That's
fine.
You would think I was 4 different artists. I can never paint the same thing twice, but I can create versions of color or design. And I've been starting to do that more now that I'm doing it full time. So, people can see in the back of behind us, your 3-panel piece. That's right. And that's your son. And they can see the Jesus painting over here. Let's see, I can point up there, wherever it is.
There you go.
And
up on the mantle.
But
and one of the large early pandemic paintings down below.
What next?
Well, I'm exploring a whole new, well, not a new, connected idea of combining some of the traditional transparent watercolors from my earlier time. Some of them were demonstrations, work from models and so on, but traditional figurative watercolor with collage, and sometimes covering parts of those figurative pieces, figures, I should say, with collage, rice papers. It's early, but I'm excited about it. And it's worth the try. Absolutely. And I'm working just for me, and it's a little obsessive, but what a magnificent impression, eh?
So remember that if you submit to Michigan Watercolor, if it's a collage, it's got to be, rice paper's fine.
Oh yeah.
Or pieces of paper like Luis Nobila used to do.
Yeah.
We can't use printed photographs, things like that. But anything that's water.
I shall keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And hope that I get in. Yeah, if you get in as many as you get rejected, you're doing just right.
That's right.
That's the voice of experience.
Any thoughts for our members?
No.
Closing thoughts at all?
Just do the work. Do the work and work for yourself and ask for help from God.
Yeah. It all works.
You've been given the gift. And I think we have an obligation or a reason to use the gift.
Right.
It's a legacy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's what you leave. Yeah, I've still got a lot of work to do.
Well, that's the beauty of it. It never gets boring.
No,
There's a constant evolution that
absolutely.
takes place,
Yeah,
which keeps us engaged, I think.
Yeah.
Until you can't think straight, I imagine, but, well, thank you. Thanks
Well,
for
thank
spending the
you.
time.
oh, it's
Uh,
a privilege to have time with you. And I want to thank you personally for what you've done for the Michigan
Thank you.
Watercolor Society. We've had great leadership, and that's why it survived all these years.
Yeah, I followed some great people, so.
Yes, and you've done wonders. Thank you.
Well, that's it for today. Hey. That was pretty neat, Edie.
Well, thank you.
We had some comments that came up. I'm just trying to see what we've got here. So, yeah, sorry about the sound issue. Thank God Vicky was here to point me to clicking a box. And now I know how to do that, so we can actually hear the recordings when I do this again. Let's see. This is super. They love the presentation with Edie. Few people had to leave early, but said it was great to see your work. Let's see. Lisa, are you still here? Lisa Tennant?
Yes, I'm
So
here.
explain your comments.
So when Edie, you were talking about the pandemic and everything changing, you know, I was teaching college and they wouldn't let us stop. We were in the middle of a semester, and so I can kind of relate to, everything kind of changed. And I just commented too that that must have been difficult to just kind of have to be giving up doing something that you love, and being there with the students and everything. We actually had to still conduct class online because we were halfway through a semester. And as in college now, we are doing some stuff online, including art. My daughter was in college at that time too, and doing art classes, and they were all online. And you have to switch to, you can't be with the students, at least initially we weren't, and record your demonstrations, which wasn't all that easy. You have to know how to do video editing and things like that, in addition to art. So, but teaching in classrooms where it's like a workshop and different things that you do, I just can't imagine having to be forced out to for a while. But just grateful that that we all were able to have some time to grow through it. And it looks like you've grown a ton in your work. So much appreciated that you guys did this Zoom call. I am zooming in from Texas.
Oh,
Awesome.
well, that's nice. Great. It's nice
Yeah.
to have you with us.
Yeah, it's we had the same problem, so we couldn't get together in our meetings, and I was leveraging Zoom in other areas. I said, let me see if I can bring it to Michigan Watercolor. And it's been fun to not only do these things, but also so they're recorded for posterities. And once we're done with today's session, it gets processed and it'll be a recording in our Michigan Watercolor Society YouTube channel, where I've got other art talks, as we coined the term. But yeah, Lisa, my daughter was teaching grad school and she taught ceramics and having to do it over Zoom calls. And Interesting. You didn't like it, but it is what it is. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions about, Edee's work or questions for her?
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Hi, Edie, I'm really excited to hear about what you're working on. I myself have recently decided to work on a series that will involve transparent watercolor gouache and collage. And I'm trying to work out the issues of collaging papers onto my watercolor paper and being able to paint over them without having to switch over to acrylic so that it will adhere to the collaged papers. What have you been using to try to collage onto your watercolor paper, but to still be able to paint over the papers? Or are you strictly collaging after everything has been painted?
Well, it's such a, it's an interesting question because the process is so automatic that I don't stop and think, what am I doing exactly? But if you want to do washes over, like cutouts from a magazine, which the paper, it would resist watercolor, I just suggest using acrylic and thin it down to a transparent surface, and that would hold if that's what you want to do. Just use the acrylic.
Have
The
you
medium
tried?
in the acrylic will make it accept water over it.
Have you tried using clear gesso over any of your collaged pieces yet to paint over them?
Well, the gesso is white or black.
They also have transparent.
I haven't used that. See, I'm constantly
Okay.
learning. This is a great opportunity. I miss being with other artists because you learn and feed off each other ideas. And so thank you for that. I didn't realize that.
I'm just in the beginning stages of trying to figure this out too, because I love that type of work.
Yeah. Well, I used Elmer's glue. I've used that for years. I stopped using the mediums because the matte medium left a little less
Haze.
than clear finish,
Mhm.
and the mediums that were shiny, I didn't want that necessarily. But Elmer's glue dries absolutely transparent. It's a beautiful finish, and I use it for all my gluing, and it's inexpensive. I go through gallons.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, Elmer's glue, very
Okay,
transparent,
wonderful. Thank you.
and a matte finish. Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
just what
Donna,
I'm looking for.
Donna Thibodeau, why don't you share your comment with Edee?
Oh, I made a comment. My very first class with you, you had a Joseph Raphael book and you loaned it to me. And I took it home that night and I fell in love with Joseph Raphael.
Oh, yes.
So we kind of shared, we were fans of his. And you did that beautiful painting of yourself lounging on the couch where you had posed like his wife had posed when he had painted her.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I think you guys at Farmington, you were a Farmington award winner that year, and you displayed that painting
Oh, that's
at the
a good
Gnostic.
memory. I'd forgotten about that one. Yes, Joseph Raphael.
That was fabulous.
Oh, yeah, he was a wonderful. Look him up, artist, Joseph Raphael, if you're not familiar with him. So,
Any other thoughts, questions? You've got, have you, those, Kathleen, your hand's up, I think.
Yes. Hi, Edie.
hi.
It's been a couple of years.
Long
just
time
wanted
no
to
see,
say-
Kathleen. I miss
Yeah,
you. Kathleen was in
living-
my classes for what, 15 years, 20 years? She's a marvelous artist. I remember you so well. What's
You
up?
remember me being very tight in my work? I still am very tight in my work.
There's
The
nothing
picture-
wrong with there's nothing wrong with that. That's your style and you do it
It
well.
is. The picture
Yes.
behind me I did during COVID. It's a USS Constitution.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had it in art prize 2 years ago.
Whoa. I'm so glad you're working and doing the work.
I wish I could show you my latest. I sent it to Rocco for the Michigan Watercolor Society
Yeah,
this coming year.
I can't share that.
Oh, okay.
No, I know, and I'm not going to share it either because it's not framed. I'm waiting to see if I get in before I frame it.
Well, good luck.
Otherwise,
Good
yeah,
luck.
otherwise I want to frame it for art prize, and they use different types of frames, you know.
Okay.
They're not as
Good for you.
restrictive. So, but I
I'm
just wanted
glad
to say
you're-
hello. Thank
Oh,
you. For
thank you. It's
everything.
nice to see you, Kathleen. I missed you in class. See, I'm still thinking in class. It's hard to believe that we're not in class anymore. Yeah,
Right. I'm in Grand Rapids now.
I know.
Oh.
Any other thoughts anyone wants to share?
I'd just like to say hi, Edie, and let you know how much we miss you in the Northport arts community.
Where are we?
I'm Tom Woodard, right there.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
there you are.
Yeah,
Hi,
hi.
Tom.
Good to
You'd
see
be
you
hard to
again.
miss.
It's so great to see you.
Thank
We-
you, Tom.
When you put up the picture of you dancing, your shadows dancing,
Yeah.
that's the Moreau rug from your studio that I now have in my living room.
Is that right?
It's-
Oh, my
it's
gosh.
it's a joy seeing you again, and nice to
It's
see you
wonderful
have
to
so
see
many
you too.
wonderful
I
people
miss
around
all
you.
the, we have a wonderful art center if you ever get up to Northport.
Yes.
It's just an incredible art community now.
It's growing by the day. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, in
Yeah.
2025, the Michigan Watercolor Society, 2024, we'll be at the Danos Museum for our annual exhibition.
Oh, wonderful.
And then we're going from there to Purgatory, Petoskey.
Wow.
So we're going to be at the Danos for a few months. and
Oh,
then-
that's awesome, Tom.
And
That's
then
awesome.
so in the future, it'd be interesting if you have, and again, here I am selling. If you have a gallery that could handle 30 paintings of a travel show for Michigan Watercolor's Best awarded paintings, we can maybe work together in the future to have a show up there.
Well, that could be great.
At the Northport, at our North, I say our because I still feel like it's partly mine.
It
The
is.
Art,
Well, you were
Northport Art
instrumental in-
Association. Yeah, that would be a wonderful place. Keep that in
would.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our signature show next year is going to be at the Charlevoix Center Circle of the Arts building. And that's in Charlevoix, and that'll be in 2024. So that'll be just our signature members. So
Okay. That sounds good.
we'll be in the area a lot in 2024.
Okay.
Any other thoughts?
Well, it's nice to see Walt and Marjorie Farrell. Hi, good friends from Northport. Yeah.
So just a couple of announcements. For those that are Michigan Watercolor members, we are currently taking submissions for our 76th annual exhibition, which will be held at the Krasinga Museum at Hope College in Holland this summer. So the submissions run through February 4th, and then that's the cutoff day. And then also this summer, we will have our signature member show at the Stamoulos Gallery Center at the University of Michigan Dearborn Menuhin Library. So we've got a couple of events this year. And for those that aren't familiar with Michigan Watercolor, we have an annual event, in this case in Holland. And from there, it's going to South Haven. The travel show is South Haven. It's going up to Newaygo. From Newaygo, I think from there, it's going to Flint Art Council at the end. So we're around the state, and just, people that are interested in submitting work into a jury show for the state of Michigan, send them our way. And with that, I think we're done. Edie, thanks. This all worked out great. I'm glad you
You're
found a
welcome.
computer. So I apologize for the issues, but we made it work. So thank you.
I knew you
Have a
would.
good- have a
Thanks
good
all
day.
of you.
All right, take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Thank you.